Hello and welcome to A Closer Look. This is the second in a series of webinars organized by the GUT Credit Union. I am Sarana Mitchell and I'm your host. Today's discussion is how to set your student up for success in a new learning environment. My guests here today are Mrs. Shauna Thomas Cuffey and Mr. Jervis Dabriel, both from the Ministry of Education. Mrs. Cuffey, you're a psychotherapist, and you're ICT. I learned something just now. They're both lefties. They're both left-handers. I'm outnumbered. I'm a righty. Okay, so, I will ask both of you to introduce yourselves in a nutshell. Tell me who you are. Ladies first. Miss Lefty.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the listeners for joining us. I am an avid humanist. I am a human services practitioner by profession. Whatever the letters behind my name or whatever I have achieved means nothing if my practice and my sense of dignity as a human being does not translate into what I do. All right? I work with people for a living. Psychology deals with soul. The Greek definition of the word psychology deals with soul. So it means that I'm a soul worker. And working with the soul means we get to motivate, we get to inspire, we get to train, we get to develop. All right? I am a proud mom of one, and that's biological, and then I'm a proud mom of many others, right, who were once clients and have come into the fold. And today I'm excited to share with parents on how they can get their children mentally and emotionally ready to start school. So that's just a little bit about me. My favorite fruit happens to be pineapple, so if you have, don't be afraid to send my way. Blessings all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Coffey. Mr. Jervis Dabriel.
So I'm going to lead with I love mangoes. So since we're throwing that out,
yes.
And I'm very easy to find. But by way of introduction, I think many persons, they already know the voice, they know the face, Jervis Dabriel. I think there are really just two things that are important this evening. One, that I am a parent. So for the parents out there, you're talking with someone who understand what's going on with you in your homes and with your young ones. I have two girls. One is 12 and the other one is 8. So one is transitioning into secondary school and the other one is smack dab in the middle of primary school. And the second thing is I'm a teacher. Excellent. So you get the perspective of a parent and a teacher in this setting this evening. So that's it. And I love technology.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabriel and Mrs. Cuffey. Since we are talking about fruit also, mine is golden apple. So, the topic. Now, schools were closed March 16, and children were sent home and online. And it was a bit chaotic. They got settled down. Then vacation. Now, Minister of Education is saying that tentatively September 7. How do you prepare your child for this? Jump in.
I think she should lead with that.
Okay, so the first lefty?
Because there is going to be some psychosocial aspects that must be addressed before my technology kicks in. So
definitely.
Thank you so much for throwing me straight in the middle of the water. But I'm ready, mentally, right? So, listen, when trauma hits, right, the mind goes through some changes. And when you feel like the trauma has abated some, the mind goes through a different set of change. So we call that transitioning. Our students are transitioning. They were at a point where they didn't get to complete their Hillary term. Trinity term was almost non-existent because You couldn't teach any new concept. You couldn't do anything. It was a lot of reviews, a lot of hands-on things, and they got the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of virtual learning. And that was great. However, psychologists, social psychologists have reported that in 17 countries, studies showed that many students, while they had that virtual experience, in several surveys with young children from 8 all the way up to 18, they reported a 4, meaning need to go back to see their friends. And what does that tell you, right?
Definitely.
Social interaction is key in the learning process. And we cannot minus the social interaction, because that is where the biggest growth and the biggest psychological development takes place. Now, Abraham Maslow, in his hierarchy of needs, put sense of belonging and actualization right at the top of the pyramid. While some other people would say, well, what that doing there? I don't understand the value of that. He knew, because that sense of belonging gets the pull from the group dynamics. And because that is so key, we as parents, teachers, educators, therapists, counselors, we want to make sure that parents know that you have to sit down first and have the talk. And let me tell you what the talk should consist of. The talk should consist of your school and the name of your school. For preschoolers who have never started school, they must know the name of their school. Students must know the name of their teachers. They must know the location of their schools for those of them transitioning into totally new environments. They must also know some educational expectations, behavioral expectations. And that's something you generally should do anytime they're entering a new academic term. However, with COVID, it's different. Because guess what? With the behavioral expectations, we have to add the mask. We have to add the periodic hand washing. Okay? We have to add the social distancing. So when you have the talk and you continue to have the talk, they develop that understanding that this is now my new normal. So before, while they were running out and saying, Mom, I don't have bus money, or I forgot this, it would be the mask.
Yes.
So now, instead of hanging the lunch bag and the book bag one way, you have to hang the mask too. Because the mask is part of your school supplies and your school resource.
And you know, with adults, even now, when I'm leaving the house, I'm grabbing my bag. Oh, do I have my mask? Before they have the keys, do you have your phone?
Yes.
Now a mask is added to it.
It's
So
added to the list. And it
Yes.
helps their brain to also work with their ADL, right? In psychology, we have something called your ADL, which is your additional daily living activities. Generally before, it would be to bathe, to have breakfast, to do, 1 or 2 little things. Now we have to add, putting on the mask and getting COVID-19 ready. So we have to have the COVID-19 ready school talk with them. For some of the younger children, because, when we talk school, we generally talk the others, but I don't want to leave out preschoolers because they're important. They've been looking forward to putting on this little uniform and carry this little cute
Big school.
bag, right, to go into their school, okay? And the KGs. So you want to make a little trip. If the school is in the community, walk by the school. So you see teacher cleaning, you see how they're arranging, that's for you, because you all are going back to get them into that positive sense and frame of mind.
those are things that were done before. So incorporating that in the process now helps to keep it a level of normalcy.
That is what we want to do. We want to
Yes.
normalize, right? And in cases of trauma, one of the major things we do, we look at causative agents, but we also look at normalizing factors. And these are some normalizing factors that could stabilize them for when they actually set foot on the plant.
In short, we need structure.
We do. We do.
And I believe the same thing must be applied when it comes to the technology and how it is used.
Absolutely.
There must be some structure. It's not just about giving a device and ensuring there is internet access and so forth, but even within the home, and I'm sure we'll come to that later, you want to have that structure. You do not just want the child sitting on the device for the whole day.
Well, since you jumped there, let's go there.
Yes.
Yes, the reason for that, the reason why I'm jumping there is because children, it's addictive. I'm an adult, and it's addictive.
It is.
And children have that device, and nothing else matters.
True.
How do you structure that? And when you structure it, okay, first question, how do you structure that?
How do you how do you structure them and their device? Well, I think it's very important for parents first off, and for the students listening as well, children listening as well, to understand that the home time is not vacation
No, it's
time.
not.
All right, and it cannot be treated like such. So the child cannot be allowed to wake up whenever they want and do whatever. There must be some structure there. It also calls for a certain level of supervision now.
Absolutely.
Parents have to understand that while they've always been teachers, but they need to be more deliberate when it comes to teaching their children. Maybe not necessarily with the content of the course or the line of study. So they're not called to be geography teachers or physics teachers, but they're called to be teachers in terms of monitoring and ensuring that the child is on task, that what need to get done gets done. Because with this unstructured approach to school now, we cannot be just about contact time anymore. You know, a child go to school from 8
Yes.
and they leave at 2:30.
No.
It now is about being task oriented. If the child has an assignment that must be completed by Friday, then the parent need to ensure that that gets done, because they only have so much contact time with the teacher when they go back to the school based on what the proposed plan is for the upcoming term.
So, okay, you're talking about parents and, for example, if the child is at home and the child has to do online schooling, the mother is not there, for example, a high school student, no monitoring. So that student, although you set rules in the house, that student will do what he or she wants to do. And whether or not he or she goes into the Zoom or whether in Moodle or whatever, then what do you do?
But I'm gonna hand this one over to Ms. Coffey in terms of self-regulation, right?
Okay.
Because this is something that I believe is key when it comes to how our children and even ourselves interact with technology. We have this notion that by setting digital muzzles, digital restraint, that we can get them to do what needs to be done. So there is a block in terms of what they can access. There is a time limit set on the device, but that is not what you want. If it's a secondary school child, we need to have a conversation with the child and get the child to realize, listen, this is what normal is now.
Yes.
And you are now in the driver's seat for your education. I mean, it's a little unfair, I believe, for the child who just a few months ago didn't have that pressure on their
Responsibility.
shoulder.
Yes.
But the reality is it is here now, and they have to come to grip with it. Parents need to understand and appreciate that as well. And I believe if that conversation happened over time, eventually you will find them self-regulating. I've seen it with my 8-year-old. I've seen it with the 12-year-old. It did not come easy. It took a bit of wrestling, but it happened. I think we sometimes do not give them enough credit for being as resilient or maybe even as responsible as they can be if we allow them to. Okay. So how about self-regulation?
Well, self-regulation comes under self-management, right?
Okay.
So the whole umbrella topic we're moving to is self-management. Now, a child does not wake up, or a teen, and understand all the factors in self-management. That comes with self-awareness. It comes with discipline, conscious discipline. And in conscious discipline, you deal with the frontal lobe decision-making part of the brain. Okay? So you have to rethink certain things that you want to do, looking at consequences, looking at benefits before you actually do them. So I would like to look at a 3-hour movie from 9 to 12. But I have this to complete. It's Tuesday morning, and I have this to complete by Thursday. Behavioral self-management tells you. Now, if that's off, we have a problem, right? Your core values in the home too, right, have to be looked at. Because when students come from a home where the core values are known, it is spoken about, You harp on it, you harp on it, you harp on it. Now listen, parenting is no easy job. Sometimes you either sound like a dog and a parrot, or a dog or a parrot. Because the things you are repeating all the time, you say to yourself, well, I need to get a recorder and just play it. You know? But when you start seeing results, and you realize that this thing hit in the brain and the mind, and these little people start to act, then you say, ah, my parroting was for a reason. So the self-management comes with intentional parenting, which is what Daria was speaking about. Now, intentional parenting is where you put your hand there, and you put it there for a reason. And where those 5 fingers are splayed, they are splayed there until you see some outcome. So even when your back is turned, there's a way to check, there's a way to monitor, because I know with Moodle, information comes to my email. So I know when you send it. And if I find, well, 10:30 and something hasn't been sent, I call. Because we all have a monitoring system. The problem is though, when it comes to screen time, you have some parents proud. Well, when I was growing up, you know, I never had that. And now look, they have it. Yeah, but what are they doing with it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Are they responsible with it? What are their roles? You have to teach them that. That is no longer than these hours. If it's for educational activity, that's the time allotted. You must take 15 to half an hour breaks, go to your books, or stretch, do exercise, drink your water. Because when you're sitting there, if you're cool and you have screen time, hours go. Yeah. You have not eaten, you have not showered, you have not done any other activity. And screen time too, what it does, increase screen time, takes away from them being responsible for chores and so.
Yeah.
So don't feel because you have this assignment to do, the chores are going to be minus. No, because just because I have to work doesn't mean that I don't get to do all the other things that are required of me as an adult. So we have to work on the scheduling. Part of structure is scheduling, right?
I think parents currently have some time to play with still, right?
They do.
Because
2 weeks.
it doesn't start with you moving a big mountain, right?
No.
If the child is expected to wash the dishes,
Yes.
then we need to ensure that the dishes get washed. This is going to translate into the assignment getting done by such time.
Absolutely.
Because at the
management.
base, it is about
Yes.
being responsible.
Yes.
Now, I'm sorry for those who are looking on, expecting me to tell you, hey, you have to spend 10 minutes or an hour, top 3 hours. The reality is screen time is a little bit more technical than that. An hour spent watching music videos is not the same as an hour spent engaging with content for educational purposes.
Yes.
So
The
this is
brain.
precisely, so
Yes.
this is something that parents have to be aware of.
Right.
Ms. Coffey mentioned the taking of breaks. Parents have to be very careful that a break from the educational content is not to have some entertainment on the
Right.
same screen. A
Yes.
break from the screen is a break from the screen.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was studying, doing computer work at St. Joseph's Convent, and we were told after a certain amount of time, go outside and stare at the trees. Get your eyes away from the screen and go look at something green. And you were pointing out that after some time online, the students should stretch. And I think that's necessary because myself doing work on a computer, time goes by and I would forget I didn't eat.
Yes.
Because I'm doing different things online. So it is necessary to structure that as part of the student of your child's life. After a certain session, he or she should stretch, or could even incorporate washing the dishes after, so from 6 to 6:30 you do math. You take a break, you wash the dishes, then you go back and you do some work again. So you structure it into the child's daily life so that things work out easily. Well, easier.
One of the recommendations is really 20-20-20. So for every 20 minutes you spend on the device, you're supposed to take a 20-second break and stare at
Okay.
something that is about 20 feet away from the screen. So I'm not sure why they sent you guys outside to look at the trees,
Yes.
but I believe there
Yes,
may have
those
been two
trees.
good reasons for that. One, because they now get you to focus on something beyond just the screen. You're
Yes.
focusing further. And secondly, I'm sure you've noticed that with your
The-
child.
the view.
When they are looking at that screen, they do not blink as much
No.
as you should normally.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
go out looking at the
Yes.
trees, chances are you might look for a bird passing or something, but it helps. It helps to ease the tension that is
Yes.
created from this constant staring and not enough blinking when
Yes.
you're at the screen. Yeah.
One of the things I've also come across, and it's spoken about often, is that children with a lot of screen time, when that time comes along and you take it away from them, there is that sort of withdrawal symptom. Have you found that, Miss Coffee?
Yes, 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 very much so. Because remember, most of them have handheld devices. So even how their hands are and the dexterity in their fingers could be affected when you're holding any handheld device for too long. Yeah, you need to switch that with a book after a while. You really do need to. Okay, and when you look at the fingers that are being used, but they're not getting proper exercise, sometimes they get cramps, you know. So we want to educate our children on various activities. And one of the psychologists, Dr. Shiraldi, who has been big on psychology today, motivating parents with what to do. She was purporting schedule outdoor time. Schedule outdoor time. Schedule outdoor time. So it's a whole body movement, a walk, cycle, you know, run, ride something, swim, go throw 2 stones in the river, catch a crayfish if there's any, right? Do something. Okay, but that oxygen flowing through you without you having that fixated element right in the palm of your hands is helpful for the brain, is helpful for the mind, because a healthy brain brings on a well-balanced mind, and that's what you want. For them transitioning back into the classroom or into some sort of routine, educational routine, you want a strong, healthy mind, because they'll need a stronger mentality more so than brain now to really be successful.
And I think that parents should start now. School, September is around the corner.
Yes,
Like
since Monday.
sometimes, you know, vacation, children sleep longer. And so then the
gotta get
time
up.
for bed, the
gotta get
bedtime
up.
should return.
I have no
And the time to
patience.
wake up should return, so that there is structure.
Yes.
And then, as you were speaking about it, with structure, you incorporate the different, like if they have to wash the dishes, they pick up a
Yes.
book more,
Yeah.
and you know, so that there is that they're ready.
They're ready.
They're ready for
Yeah,
what
mental
is to come.
readiness, mental readiness.
And in addition to that, I think, you know, parents have to also understand, well, you should know your child, know your children. 2 children in the same house most likely will not learn the very same way.
No.
So one may be able to consume the content on the device and they're fine, but the other one need to have that physical book. But let me also say here that because our children are digital natives, it is in them. It's what they do. They love it. They will have no problem engaging with that device for hours upon hours. Parents have a responsibility to ensure that they protect their children, even from themselves.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to take a break. When we come back, that is what we're going to jump on. No, you are watching A Closer Look, and I'm inviting you to write your questions in. We're going to put them out there, and we're going to have answers for them from Mrs. Coffey and from Mr. Dabrio. And as well as we have menti.com, so you can get ready to go over to, because we have a survey, and the question is, how would you like learning to take place this term? So we'll be back soon.
GUT, they're the ones for me. Since 1983, they've been solving the cycle. They're financing, giving the people what they want, what they need, what they love. Come and join the family that's here for you all the way. From birth to graduation, your first job to your home and your card through your golden years.
The GT Credit Union has been actively supporting nation building through its many sponsorships and programs including Financial Literacy Quiz, Pass the Torch Calypso Program, Junior Cooperatives in Secondary Schools, CPEA, and the TAMCC Grants. The credit union has helped many people make their dreams come true. Let them help you with yours. You don't have to be a teacher to be a member. So what are you waiting for?
GUT Credit Union, it's where you belong. I'm reaching my dream.
And we are talking about school, preparing our children for school. And my guests today, our guests are Mrs. Cuffy and Mr. Dabrio. And we're talking about our children, getting them prepared in this COVID-19, how to prepare them for what is out there. And this is organized by the Grenada Union of Teachers Credit Union. So let's go back to Mr. Dabrio. Before we went to the break, we were talking about safety online.
Yes, and we were talking about, parents' responsibility to protect the children, even to protect them from themselves. Very few children are willing to accept that the technology is addictive. As a matter of fact, they'll tell mommy and daddy, listen, there is no problem here. I'm good. I can put it down whenever I want. And you realize it's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. And I believe this is where the psychology part of it comes in. What constitutes an addiction? And does the technology present that sort of thing to our boys and girls? I mean, Facebook with its ever-going scrolling, I mean, there's no end to that. YouTube with the constant videos being thrown at you. And I believe that's where the psychology comes in. The parents have to understand that, you have to get them to put on the device at some point in time.
Because, with that being said, a lot of parents allow the technology to raise their kids. It's an easy way to get away. I mean, many of us have issues, problems dealing with things. Yes. So instead of dealing with it and dealing with the child, you just give them the phone or give them the iPad and you disappear. Or so how?
So technology being used as a babysitter, technology being used as a hush mouther. No, none of those are the reasons why that kind of technology was created. But interesting though, Jervis, there have been 4 studies in the last year and a half that said that more people are showing up for therapy because of technology addiction. And the ages span from pretty much 12 and up. In one case, there was a 62-year-old, which I read about, who felt that they could not sleep with the device off. They never knew what it was like to shut off a device till they have backup batteries for the device, just so that they would never be out, of touch. And, when somebody comes to you and they have that kind of addiction, one of the things you have to flag is the hours, right? Does it disrupt your living pattern? So are you sleeping less? Your nutrition is off? Your mentality in terms of, can you have a normal conversation? Has it disrupted your routine so much that you figure you have become antisocial and disinterested in having any human interaction, to the point where you race home from work to get on technology? Those are some telltale signs, and parents need to be forewarned, and they need to be hyper vigilant about things like that. So while I throw it back to the IT person to share on the technological aspect of the addiction, what I have shared, what it caused, what flags you look for, but throwing it right back.
Yeah, and I think and you mentioned that, right, where some children, you know, they find it difficult to just put down the device. And that is one of the signs that parents need to look
Yes.
for. When the child who once loved kicking ball outside would now
Yes.
much prefer kickball on the device.
Yes.
You need to strike that balance. It's not for you to take that, you know, you should ban the technology and not allow them to use it. No, but there must be a healthy balance between it. Nicholas Carr, he did quite a bit of research, and there's a beautiful
Yes,
book,
yes.
The Shallows, that explain how deep this thing goes, even to the design level of the technology.
yes.
So we have to be careful. Do I allow my girls to use technology? I'm a tech person. Of course they use technology, but is there a balance? Yes. Are there days when they have to turn it off and go outside and play and do other things? Yes. I mean, there are days when they know they can only engage with it at a certain time. And my advice to parents is to follow a similar thing. Let the children do the work that they need to do, ensure that it is completed, but do not allow them to just have the technology and, you know, everything just be about it.
You know, with what we've been speaking about for the past half an hour, it comes to the need to structure
Yes.
and to have balance.
Yes.
Because what study has shown is that the screen time increases weight gain if they don't go outside exercising and so on. You just sit in front of that, or you just sit at it and you're just there and you're lost. Next question, unless anyone else have anything to add to that part.
Next question.
Anxiety and stress. The children, you know, they had to just jump out of school, then they had to go online. Now, the government is talking about a combination, and some children are like, they're anxious. And what if they had to just go back home totally again? What if COVID-19, there's a problem and we have to shut down again, everyone has to go back home? Anxiety, stress, how do we deal
Okay,
with that?
so when you come to stress, right? Stress is anything real or imagined which changes the chemical reaction in the body. Now, in our body, we have hormones. And these hormones go like, you know, you have the little puppet dance, the hormones go like that. You're happy, you have your happy hormones. So your serotonin levels would respond to your emotionality at the time. The children experience the same thing, okay? So what I would suggest, which I generally do, parents need to take their children to their pediatrician. You know, we have a culture where we only take the child to the doctor when they're sick or if they need a shot. We need some medical clearance. I've said it last night in a meeting on Zoom, 300 and something parents, and I'm saying it today with whomever's out there. Get a medical clearance for your child.
What are you looking for specifically?
Right, so when you go to the pediatrician, you have them do their checks. So they're doing ear, they're doing the eye, right? If they can do some blood work, great. Okay, the pediatrician, well, I know my pediatrician would generally ask certain questions. So how do you feel today about so-and-so? I generally would tell the pediatrician how he did on his scores, his report. You know, some things too, you may not agree with, you may not whatever, but I give certain reports. So if your child is involved in a sport and they had an injury and it was healed or whatever, you know, you share those things, right? Because that could impact the child's return. Okay? If a relative died, because that's a source of trauma, that could bring on anxiety, because death is a major stressor as well. Whatever it is, you're supposed to have a great relationship with your child's pediatrician or your child's nurse. Even if you take the child to the medical station, wherever you go with that child, don't bounce around. Have somewhere where there's a record and there's some history, right? You want to get that clearance out of the way, and I'll tell you why. Because it helps reduce stress. When you get a clean bill of health, you walk out of there like a champion, you know. Even if you don't know, you'll contact something later. But the mere fact that the blood work came back and this is well, that in itself, those happy hormones are going to come jumping. And then you talk with your children with everything you're doing. You heard what Doc said. The sugar level good enough. So when you hear you go back, you see these soft drinks, the water I'm packing for you, drink your water, don't come back with it. And the fruits, please don't let them get slimy, eat them at 10:15. You have that conversation. You put that in because it's important. Now, Sarana, many people think children can't have stress. I hear adults saying, hey, but what you have to do? You don't have mortgage to pay. You don't have any stress, but children come down with the most stressors. Could be the death of a pet, change in their family structure, whether mommy goes, daddy goes, whomever goes, the caregiver, right, goes away. That too can be a stressor. It can also be a stressor, medical ailments that they have. Let's take, for example, our differently able students. Most people call them special needs. I don't. I call them differently abled students. They have different stressors. And if you have differently abled parents, that becomes a stressor. I've had situations where students reach into school 8:45, and the principal, hey, well, Miss Coffee, I don't understand. I don't want not to say, well, talk to the child. When you find out the child had to change mommy pampers, wait for the caregiver to come, still make some porridge, drink some and fly up a hill or fly across a pasture and go to school.
The situation that they're living in.
Right?
Yes.
So your socioeconomic challenges, right? Your biofamilial circumstances. So you see the stressors are there. And if we are supposed to be a wonderful Spice Isle community, we must not just look out for our own. And that's one of the points I want to make. In transitioning students to school, community members must get involved too. Encourage them. Speak positively. Hey, so you're going to school on the 7th? Lord, I can't wait to see you with the ribbon, the whatever. Tell the boys something. You know, you have to polish the shoe. You wash your school bag already. Start getting them into that zone so it decreases the anxiety. When you prepare them with the talk, the anxiety levels drop because many students have already developed anxiety disorders, and I'll tell you how. When the Form 5s came back, we had students who never tested for any kind of test-taking anxiety before testing high. Why? Because they were home, the doubt, the uncertainty, and guess what? Exam is now multiple choice. Well, thank God I am how many years older? Because you see, me, I am a writer. If you ask me the thing, and I taught literature, so I know how to quote and put my point and so on. This A, B, C, D, E.
Right or wrong?
What? No, that's not my style. So
it's
that
right
would
or
have been a
wrong.
trigger for me. That would have been a stressor for me. So I get it. Because when we know how we learn, like Jervis was saying, the tactile learner has to pick up and fiddle around and do. But the auditory learner, you say it and they get it. The visual learner, if you enjoy it, they sit down, they're clueless. Okay? So when we take all of those things under advisement, then we can say, okay, this plan is airtight, because we would have done what you call a differentiated assessment. Differentiated assessment of who we are dealing with takes down the stress levels and it decreases anxiety.
And I want to add here as well, for the parents out there, that your child is not going to be stressed out or anxious because of the technology in most cases.
No.
They're digital natives. It
Yes.
is part of them. They will figure out how to get
easily.
to whatever they need to get to. They'll figure out how to get this thing to do what they want it to do. The anxiety and the stress is going to come in when the content that comes, they do not know how to get to the bottom of understanding it, because it might be pitch bad. Maybe the video that they're supposed to look at, it's not a video that appeals to them. Maybe how the content is being spoken through that video, the child doesn't understand. And so they get flustered, they get anxious, they get angry. As mommy or daddy, you have to check in and support your child.
Yes.
When that happens, it's not about the technology. It's about your child now knowing that mommy or daddy is there, and I want you to get this. I want to help you understand, not to do it for them, but to get them to understand, and maybe even talk to the teachers and so. And I think this is something that is going to be real. It is something that I'm sure happened. I saw it with my last daughter. During the lockdown, there was a lesson in particular. She got flustered. She got upset. She started to cry, and you had to let her know, hey, all right, just forget this. Go outside, go take a break.
Yes.
It was not about the technology, but it was about the content. And the parents have to be there to support. Communicate, but you have to support them.
Yes.
You do not have to be a physics teacher
No.
to be able to support
Not
your
at all,
child
yes.
with the physics lesson. And I think this is key.
That is very
And
important.
that's a stressor.
Yes.
You know, that's a stressor.
It stresses out the parent who does not know how to handle the situation,
Yes.
and it stresses out the child.
Yeah, and if the child is already flustered, telling the child, go find it or figure it out is not, it's really
Yes.
not going to
And
help.
generally that's what's said.
Yeah.
You know, students would say, you know, but I'm trying and nothing's happening. In addition to the point you've made, I want to share that parents are spending, you know, $3,000-4,000